What support systems do you have or wish you had for navigating relationships?
Whoo, child, Chile. You know it's something when your own journal puts you in a position of like a shundo moment. Supports that I have today are very different from the supports that I had in the past. Supports in the past were probably my friends who also had dysfunctional relationships. And I remember going through therapy, current support, and one of my first therapists while I was in an abusive relationship said, explain to me the examples you have around relationships. And I explained my grandparents' dynamic. And while at times when it was not the best, all out dysfunctional, my grandmother's message was stand by my man, my man, my man, my man. And she said, not to say that my grandfather was abusive at all, made some missteps, issues with infidelity for sure, but not abusive. And she said, well, Tashira, that's your connection to some degree. Not at all to dismiss the abuser, but to say that you learned early on a message around staying through harm, staying through trauma. And that has to be reprogrammed and changed for you. So, right? That has to be changed. And so I think that I had to go through a season of just telling kind of my friends everything, even if they did not have the best advice to share. I had to go through a season of recognizing what are healthy examples of relationships around me. Are there any, whether within my peers or older generations? I mean, my mom got married when she was 36. And my mom wasn't the kind of person to kind of date openly around me. So I only really remember her having 2 boyfriends my entire life before she met my stepfather. And while I love him, I also didn't receive messages around dating and how to do so healthily from her. And so it took me developing a therapeutic relationship before I was able to kind of do that self-work to recognize the kind of person I am, the partner that I need to be able to stand up and to recognize that unapologetically. And to be able to also know where to get the support if I need it now. And that has changed a lot throughout the years.
When you think back to your younger self, what do you wish you had had?
Whew.
In terms of developing skills for a healthy relationship.
Well, first, I wish I would have had, let me just be honest. I came from a small country town. We had a Taco Bell when I was 17. Before that, it was just McDonald's and Hardee's, girl. So when I tell you I come from a very kind of isolated, very segregated community, that's what I mean. And so I recognize that my grandparents had to be very strict to keep me safe and to get me to where I am today. But what part of that meant also is that I was not able to have any open discussions around dating. And I also was kept in the church. Church was my life. It was how we socialized. If you met somebody, it was like, what's your name? What church you go to? And so between choir rehearsal, between Sunday school, between church, between Easter, between vacation Bible school, it was consistently these messages around slut shaming and these puritanical values. And so what I missed that I wish I had was just a conversation about here are healthy boundaries. Here's where to look for in a partner. Dare I say, here's what opportunities for pleasure might look like that are age appropriate for you. Instead, what I learned was boys are bad. And I also just learned about boys, of course. And I think to myself now, if I had any kind of comprehensive sex and sexuality education, I would have embraced being queer a lot younger. I would have not kind of mystified boys or wanting a boyfriend in this way. I just would have understood healthy patterns of relationships. And I try to be that model now for the young people in my life that I wish I had to answer your question, Em. Thanks for listening to Justice. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to learn more about our podcast, be sure to check us out on our website at justicepodcast.com. You can also reach out to us there if you want to be featured on the show or if you have a business or a product that you think would be a good fit for our audience. Thanks again for listening.